Joining us now on Sports Talk ATL, Big Low Country, Big Low. We're sitting here. It's early January, and it's an all too familiar feeling for Falcons fan. But this one is much different for two reasons. One, it felt like 2 months ago we were in the playoffs. Like we were already making plans to go be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So the collapse is a lot worse in terms of the disappointment and how the Kirk Cousins thing went down. Raheem Morris's time management, a lot of things over the last 6 weeks. Young Wei Koo can't make a field goal. Riley Patterson, a lot of disappointment, right? But there's also the beaming bright light of hope that is Michael Penix. And that's who I want to start off with, because that's going to be the number one talking point for this team, I feel like, for a long time. What was your feeling watching him over these last 3 weeks?
It's kind of tough because it's one of those cases where I was enjoying watching him, but the whole time I was sitting there thinking, why didn't we do it sooner? So I mean, and the crazy thing is that, now I'm sitting here the first week of many weeks to come, not being able to watch Atlanta Falcons football, just thinking about all of the what ifs and thinking about how I can't wait to see this young man play again because, he's him. He
is.
I hadn't seen him make one bad read yet. Now, does he have 2 interceptions? Yes, but it's not due to the fault of himself. He makes great reads. He has a great arm. And, we've seen him get elusive, get out of the pocket a few times. I'm feeling good about our future.
Yeah, looked like number 7 diving for that pylon. And brought back some memories. If you want to talk about hope, Falcons fans haven't had legitimate hope. Now, obviously, we all were getting excited about Kirk Cousins, this offense, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Zach Routes. We all got excited about it. But this is legitimate hope. This isn't that fake stuff that, we tried to talk ourselves into Desmond Ridder, which was just insane that some people really were trying to peddle that guy could lead this. This is completely different. This isn't a 36-year-old coming off an Achilles injury. This is the future. This is the franchise quarterback. 3 games of Michael Penix, and I'm sold. Now, a lot has to go into it for him to, reach the heights that we all expect him to, especially in between the ears. And a lot has to go on correctly around him, from a roster standpoint, a coaching standpoint. But, once you get the quarterback right, generally speaking, everything else falls in line. And even when it doesn't, if a guy's good enough, it's still going to be okay. Every single season, you will have hope. And that's what we have now. Michael Penix has given this city hope. He is the guy. I've already seen enough. Now it's just about how good can we get? Can we get to a Super Bowl? That's the only question.
Well, if you think – for example, if you look back at the game on Sunday, because you mentioned, once you get that quarterback in place, everything else kind of falls in place. But think about this. We put up, 35 points?
38.
Yep.
38 points, and we still lost the game.
Yeah.
Career highs from Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Michael Penix had a heck of a game. We still lost the game. So, from what you said, I think the most important thing that you said is from a coaching standpoint.
Let me ask you a question, building off that. Now, we could go back and forth with positive and negative, but I have to ask this. I was going to wait, but that was a good segue. We lost to the Panthers. We had to win this game. This was a must-win game. Obviously, the result of this game didn't matter because the Buccaneers ended up beating the Saints. But in that first half in Tampa, the Saints were winning. Spencer Rattler was spinning it. It looked like for a second the Falcons were going to maybe squeak into the playoffs if the Saints upset the Bucs. Obviously, let's not play the hypothetical, but let's play the hypothetical game. What is your response here today? If the Panthers game went the same exact way, we lose in overtime, and the Bucs ended up losing to the Saints, what is your response here today?
I would feel the same way that I'm feeling now. We got to make a lot of big changes defensively, and it's not on the field. At the end of the day, we can only control what we can control. So whether or not the Saints lost or the Bucs lost, the fact of the matter is that You can only control what you can do. And we still lost the game on Sunday after having career highs from our last 3 top picks in the draft. So defensively, some changes need to be made.
Well, that wasn't fun.
Yeah,
I need you. I need some fireworks. I need something along the lines of this was completely unacceptable. I mean, this was an outright embarrassment of a loss. I think that somebody needs to acknowledge the fact that we, in this hypothetical, you could control what you could control. That's all fine and stuff. But like, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room that we let the playoffs slip through our fingers. And it wasn't because of our rookie quarterback.
Yes, I completely agree. But we let the playoffs slip through our fingers the week before.
Yes.
Whenever we didn't call the timeout or, the other decisions that we made.
That's my point. My point is Raheem Morris has got to take some of this blame.
There's no doubt. I mean, listen, I don't care if Raheem Morris takes the blame or not. We all know that the blame lies at the feet of Raheem Morris. And there are severe questions, and I asked it during the game, and I've asked it several times on this show, whether it be I've asked it on social media, but it is what exactly does Raheem Morris help you win games? Like, what does he do to help you win games? He's a defensive coach. The defense took a huge step back despite a lot of resources. Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons, guys getting better, draft picks. Like, even though those draft picks turned out to do absolutely nothing, the defense, we talked about it before the year. I believe it was with you, Big Low Country. I said Raheem Morris and Jimmy Lake have to be responsible for building off what Ryan Nielsen did with a lot less talent. That's their number one responsibility as a head coach outside of, being able to call timeouts and stuff. And it turned into an average defense to one of the worst in the league again. And that Panthers game was just a microcosm of all the problems this defense had throughout the season. And there was a little stretch there where we were like, oh, maybe it's turning around, but it was the Raiders and the Giants, guys. It turns out you get a quarterback with a pulse. If Bryce Young now has a pulse, and you go out there and get cooked. I mean, the Vikings cooked us. The Panthers cooked us. They maybe had one good game all season against the Chargers that they should have won, where they played very well. And the Chargers don't have a great offense in terms of weapons. So what exactly is Raheem Morris doing here to help this team win? Because the motivational aspect, that stuff runs thin over the course of a season. The defense has taken a huge step back. Time management, how you haven't learned that after 20 years in the league, that's a question. And I understand giving guys chances. I don't think you should fire most head coaches in 1 year. And I understand why they're going to give him another chance. But I'm just trying to look for the positive and what he could offer this team in the future, and I'm having a hard time seeing it.
Look, man, at the end of the day, for example, if y'all came to me and said, hey, Big Low, can you help me diversify my portfolio? If you came to me and asked me that, and I came and said, hey, of course we could do that, man. Look, a key, tell you a whole bunch of jokes. Like, yeah, of course we could do that. And then I tell you that, you need to go buy stock in Blockbuster. And you need to go buy stock in, I don't know, Toys R Us. And then whenever you come back, hey, Big Low, like, what you doing? Like, what? Why are we struggling? I'd be like, hey, man, look, I got to do better. We got to do better. Toys R Us has to do better. And the fact of the matter is, I keep telling you that until the cows come home, just like you stated. The whole motivational thing, it dies off as the season continues to go on. At the end of the day, just knowing what you're supposed to do and doing it is the best motivation that could ever be. Yeah,
I said it on multiple occasions. A Raheem Morris press conference is like a high school kid trying to reach a word limit on a essay where he's just speaking, and it's like, we're not. What was the question again? Like, I forgot what the question was. Like, you've been talking for 30 seconds, and I don't know if you even answered the question. So he's got a silver tongue, that guy. I'll tell you what. You put a 3-piece suit on, and you go hug Arthur Blank, and you'll be a millionaire. I swear. I might invest. In a tailor-made suit. Drive my ass up to Flowery Branch and just wait for Arthur Blank to come by and just go smile and kiss his cheek. I'll be set up for life. That's seemingly all that you have to do. I agree. I mean, it would be nice to have some answers. And while I do agree, I think the main thing that Raheem Morris should be criticized for is hanging on to Kirk Cousins too long. Because if Michael Penix was, I guess, amid that 4-game stretch, 5 games, really. We did beat the Raiders, but Kirk Cousins still looked like a 50-year-old man out there. That's what I think was the defining moment of this season in terms of failure, is we just hung on to Kirk Cousins too long. And I think that's what should define.
I mean, you could say that about Kirk Cousins. You could say that about Younghoe Koo. You could say about the decision to bring in a field goal kicker, which I've never seen a field goal kicker in this day and age. It's 2025, guys. How the hell did we have a kicker that couldn't make a 53-yard field goal? Like, how is that even possible? There's absolutely no way there wasn't someone on the street that had longer range.
Go get somebody from Atlanta United. I bet somebody over there could kick a 52-yard field goal.
And then you go into the defense, you go into the timeouts. Like, there was just so many things that led to this epic collapse that felt preventable. And it's hard to find. So, I mean, in terms of the Jimmy Lake, the Terry Fontenot, the Raheem Morris, I mean, how are you feeling about all 3 of those guys in their future? It seems like Jimmy Lake might be gone. The other 2 seem safe. If I were just going off reading the tea leaves, what we've seen, I mean, how are you feeling about that kind of trio of guys going into 2025?
Well, I feel like as far as like the head coach and the general manager, if you look over the past, Arthur Blank seems to keep a head coach. Well, I'm sorry, he seems to keep a general manager for a couple of years. Well, I'm sorry, for a couple of tenures of the head coach. For example, Thomas Dimitroff, Dan Quinn. Then you moved on from Dan Quinn, you went ahead and got rid of Thomas Dimitroff and brought in a new head coach. I feel like whenever he does move on from Raheem Morris, that's when he'll move on from Terry Fontenot. But as far as Jimmy Lake goes, I mean, hey, ho, Jimmy Lake has to go. I mean,
bring it back, baby.
That's pretty much where we're at. Whenever you're playing in week 18 and Bryce Young carves you up and
he carved us up, man.
He carved like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Day.
5 touchdowns.
And Raheem Morris's response was, there were communication issues on the back end.
The last game.
In a must-win game. And I want to emphasize the fact that
we also don't have bums in the secondary. AJ Terrell, All-Pro. Jesse Bates, All-Pro. Justin Simmons, All-Pro. These aren't rookies. These aren't guys that don't know how to play football, that haven't been around the game for. Mike Hughes, hell, he's been around the game a lot. Like, we got guys in the secondary, and maybe some of them underperformed, Justin Simmons or whatever, but like, the miscommunication thing, I can't believe that wasn't a bigger deal for Atlanta media.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize the fact that not only was it a must-win game, like the Falcons knew the score of the Saints game the entire game. Like they knew damn well on the sideline, oh my God, we have a chance. Like going into that game, they might have thought, all right, we're probably not going to get in. But at halftime of that game, they knew the Saints were trailing by 10, and they still went out there and gave up 30 points to Bryce Young. Also, one last thing about Raheem Morris, because we are cutting short, just talking about dumb decisions that make no sense. At the end of the game, they score. Their defense can't stop anybody. They have the opportunity to go for 2 with an offense that is pushing around Carolina's offensive line and Bijan Robinson. And by the way, at that point, they knew they were eliminated. Why are we going into overtime? But the season was over. Like, let's end it with Michael Penix making a play and kumbaya. But why are we going into overtime and maybe risking another injury? Like, it's just another example of no rhyme or reason, especially for a coach who was going for it on 4th down the entire season like he was Dan Campbell.
Exactly. Bro, I legitimately don't know. And another thing that I just want to touch on, if you have all these miscommunications going on in the back end of your secondary, why not just play man coverage? Why not just say, if he goes to the bathroom, hand him the toilet paper? Like why can't we just do that instead of trying to complicate things and run this crazy zone? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, trust me. We listen.
Preaching to the choir.
You are preaching to the absolute choir. These are the same things we've been saying, and unfortunately, some people like to make excuses for all these things. But at a certain point, there's just too many excuses to be made, and accountability that's not being taken, which is a trend that has been going on with this organization. No matter who's in the building.
Arthur Blank loves to hide behind this word collaboration. Deshaun Watson. That was a collaborative effort, to Desmond Ridder, that's a collaborative effort. You know, Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix, that's a collab. Will somebody say it was my idea and then fire him? I mean,
well, you know what? I want to see the person that stands up and says it was my idea for Michael Penix, because that's what
give him a raise.
Maybe we can finally splinter all of this collaboration when someone takes credit for the good, because then they'll be like, hey, but what about the time you said Kirk Cousins was the guy? And we can finally stop hiding. But Big Low, as always, thank you so much for joining us. It's going to be a long road to next season, but at least there's a glimmer of hope.
Yes, sir.